Good afternoon. This is Dr. Clay Owens for your live online session 4 lecture. This is for MVAV 6301 sections 1 and 2, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. This is session 4. Normally there are only 3, but because of some of the time limits on the previous ones, I'm doing a 4th episode. In about a month, I will see you in Vietnam. I'll be there in person, share with you my ideas and thinking and answer questions, and then be the proctor for your final exam. There are a number of issues in marketing that we have touched on related to ethics, and this is the first one we're going to talk about now. Early advertising for Pearl tobacco, again, this is tobacco products, many of you wrote about those, depicted a risque, unclothed female figure rising from the waves. This was to get people's attention. Ethical issues in marketing arise from the conflicts and lack of agreement on particular issues. Parties involved in marketing transactions have a set of expectations about how the business relationships will take shape and how various transactions need to be conducted. Each marketing concept has its own ethical issues. Market research has experienced a resurgence with the widespread use of the internet and the popularity of social networking. It is easier than ever before for companies to connect directly with customers and to collect individual information that goes into a database to be matched with other pieces of data collected during unrelated transactions. There are a lot of problems going on right now. I have a news article that you'll be seeing soon where Google and Amazon are both being investigated for these kinds of things. Invasions of your privacy. The way a company conducts its market research these days can have serious ethical repercussions, affecting the lives of consumers in ways that have yet to be fully understood. Even further, companies can be faced with a public backlash if their market research practices are perceived as unethical. People have a lot of power when they band together, and if they decide to go against a certain brand, it can be very serious. Generally, these kind of things are called boycotts. And with the internet, people can communicate this kind of information widely. Grouping the market audience. Unethical practices in marketing can result in grouping the audience into various segments. Selective marketing may be used to discourage the demand arising from these so-called undesirable market segments or to disenfranchise them totally. Marketing can be aimed at certain groups to encourage them to purchase a product and to make other groups feel like they're left out and don't even need to try. Examples of unethical market exclusion may include industry attitudes toward gays, ethnic minorities, and plus-size groups. Ethics in advertising and promotion. See the thumbs up on the advertising. In the early days of the existence of corporations, especially during the 1940s and 50s in the United States, tobacco was advertised as a substance that promotes health. That's hard to believe now, but back then people did believe that smoking relieved stress, lowered your blood pressure, kept you from overeating, made you feel better. Of late, an advertiser who does not meet the ethical standards is considered an offender against morality by the laws that are in place. This is a very old ad for Lucky Strike cigarettes, a very famous brand in the United States. You can see it says that the tobacco is toasted. All tobacco is toasted in these barns out behind the place. Tobacco grows green, then they hang it in these buildings and cook it until it turns brown. Lucky Strike means this guy went from being fat to thin and jumping over hurdles. your throat protection against irritation and against cough. We now know that it causes irritation and causes coughs. But back then, nobody knew. Philip Morris, a very famous brand of cigarettes in the United States, saying that it will cure whatever's wrong with you. Irritations of the nose and throat. Again, it's a very young person showing it too. Far more pleasure, far more health protection. Again, we know now that that is untrue. In the old days, there's an advertisement on television where the bellhop, like in this picture, we walk in the lobby of a hotel and we'll be calling out, "Call for Philip Morris." Camel cigarettes, Camel shorts, no filters. Very dangerous things. Let's see, it says here, more doctors smoke Camels than any other brand. Very misleading. Nationwide survey. When you take a statistics course, you will learn that you can take statistics and surveys and make up all kinds of lies from those numbers. This is a famous actor who sings, and it says that he protects his voice using Lucky Strike tobacco, Lucky Strike cigarettes. And remember, I saw earlier that it's toasted. I venture to say that cigarettes are not very good for your voice. L&M cigarettes, Liggett & Myers, very famous brand. And this guy was a very famous person at the time, Frederick March, saying that if you added the filter to the cigarette, remember like the Lucky Strikes and the Camel shorts didn't have filters, that the filters made these so much better for you. We now know that it makes very little difference. This one is Lucky Strike. You see the woman in her wedding dress. Smoke a Lucky to feel your very best. In the United States, there is a tradition where the bride throws her bouquet of flowers, as you see down here in the 7 o'clock range, throws the bouquet to the crowd, and whoever catches it next is the next person to be married. It's a tradition. So they kind of weave this emotional thing of a wedding and throwing the bouquet and all that to smoking cigarettes. Very misleading. Now, if you see at the bottom, there's some letters that say LSMFT. Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. Many years ago, I worked in an organization where people had their master's in social work degrees, and then they had counseling degrees in marriage and family therapy and all these other things. So when I started sending memos to them, because I was their boss, I started putting LSMFT at the end of my name just to confuse them. It was sort of an inside joke. LSMFT, Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. Here's another one. It says to keep a slender figure, saying that smoking cigarettes will help you lose weight. Very interesting concept. Reach for a Lucky instead of something sweet to eat. Very interesting. And being someone who's a little overweight, you think about sometimes what would it take to quit eating sugary foods and to lose weight. And it may be that smoking and losing your sense of taste would do that. Lucky Strike, your throat protection against irritation and against cough. Well, we think that Lucky Strike causes coughs. And then again, they quote how many physicians, medical doctors, smoke these cigarettes. A dentist, Viceroy cigarettes, saying that cigarettes are good for your teeth, which we think now they are not. We think that they cause stains on your teeth from the tobacco. We think that they promote other problems with your teeth. some based on poor circulation. Sexuality is a major point of discussion when ethical issues in advertising content are considered. You see here traditional male and female characters. This is an advertisement for Carl's Jr. hamburgers. The advertisement is for the hamburger, but there are a lot of other parts of this picture that would draw your attention first. Carl's Jr. is a national company that also owns Hardee's hamburgers in the United States. This ad with two scantily clad women is supposed to be advertising an internet hosting service called GoDaddy.com. But again, what does that have to do with computers? Very little. But they're getting your attention. American Apparel has had a lot of very controversial ads. Like many clothing companies, they are advertising their clothes for sale by showing parts that are not clothed. Axe shower gel promoting a different kind of image if you use their products. Axe has had a lot of very suggestive advertisements across the United States. I have an idea there are lots of very young guys that are going out and trying to buy these things to be more successful with women. Calvin Klein underwear has always pushed the edge, using models that look like they were strung out on drugs. This Gap ad isn't bad. Skydivers showing that the clothes stretch and are good for exercising. That's probably okay. I kind of like the way it does it. It's not bad at all. Stretchy clothing, quality clothing for exercise. That's not bad. Britney Spears advertising Pepsi. Again, the Pepsi symbol down in the corner is so small you almost don't see it. But you get her attention. She gets your attention. Budweiser, king of beers. Again, what does that have to do with these women on there? Levi's bodywear. If you remember, Levi's is famous in the United States. Levi Strauss Corporation made tents for gold miners and then had leftover fabric and started making heavy work clothes for miners. And then over the years, those jeans became very famous. Levi's. You hear a lot of things about people stealing them, smuggling them. Old ripped up pairs are worth a lot of money, and they have ventured out into underwear for men and women. And this ad that gets your attention with the people and then with the Levi's in the corner. This is an ad for Skechers shoes. One of the things you notice immediately is there are no shoes in the advertisement. No shoes. Coca-Cola, Taste the Feeling. Again, it's very suggestive, but it doesn't really say anything wrong. But Coca-Cola, even as a wholesome product, is not immune from the suggestive kind of things. Abercrombie & Fitch, another clothing company that sells clothing by showing skin. These all ads had some things in common. You see the ad down here is, "Are you beach body ready?" which I'm not. They got your attention. You might talk about them with someone that you know. You'll probably watch for it again to see if it changes or if there's a variation of it. After several viewings, you will remember the brand name. You will see that brand is related to a certain lifestyle, whether it really is or not, and you may aspire to the idea that it puts forth as a lifestyle. So these ads all had these things in common. They got your attention. You might talk about them with someone you know. You will probably watch for the ad again to see if it changes or if there's anything different about it. After several viewings, you will remember the brand name that was involved with the ad. And you will begin to see that brand is related to a certain lifestyle, whether it really is or not. You will aspire to the idea that it puts forth as a lifestyle that you would like to have. Then the question becomes, is this ethical advertising? Is this ethical? Violence is also an important ethical issue in advertising, especially where children should not be affected by the content. This is a coffee advertisement where the man is beating his wife. This is a Gucci ad for clothing and other shoes and items. Violence is implied. Victim of beauty. Again, violence is implied. In the United States, it's a very common movie type thing for the bad guys, the gangsters, to take people and put them in the trunk of the car after they're dead and take them somewhere remote to bury the body so that it will not be found. It is really very interesting stuff. This is a Dolce & Gabbana ad, very famous decorators, very famous designers, very famous for clothing and other things. And they appear to be committing violence against this woman. Not good. This woman seems to be butchered up, cut up. Not good. Blender brand. This is another thing. Belvedere goes down smoothly. Again, it's a very suggestive thing for vodka. There is a website called theconversation.com talking about whether or not sex and violence really do sell things. Again, it's a good place to look. It's a good place to think about what's going on. Conventional wisdom has always said that sex sells in advertising. Advertisers often use sexual ads under the assumption that they attract attention and therefore are an effective way to promote products and services. Many companies, as we have just seen, continue to pursue this strategy. Likewise, conventional wisdom has long held that violence sells on television. The thinking goes that violent programs thrive because if it bleeds, it leads. Meaning that people enjoy watching programs featuring crime, violence, and other forms of excitement not readily experienced in everyday life. In these two contexts, conventional wisdom is at least partially correct. Sexual ads do attract attention. Violent programs do attract viewers. However, there's an important caveat. At what cost do these ads and programs attract attention and viewers? What does a company or a brand lose because of ads? In other words, could it be that sexual ads attract attention to the sex itself, but not the product, and that violent programs attract attention to the violence itself, but not the product? Jimmy Choo, another designer brand that the man is wearing, showing the woman in the desert being buried by someone who killed her. Again, violence against women with the designer brand Duncan Quinn. Relish brand, again, violence against the women, this time by what are supposed to be police officers. This is advertising a Ford vehicle, showing 3 women kidnapped, showing you that the little car has room in the back for you to tie up and throw 3 women inside. Very questionable quality ad. And then this one shows a punch saying stop the violence. I don't believe that's very valid. Some select types of advertising may strongly offend some groups of people, even though they are of strong interest to others. See how there's always a crybaby, someone who's going to complain. Certain health products for certain personal issues such as sore muscles or hemorrhoids or problems with advertising. They offend certain people. The same with AIDS prevention medications or sales of condoms. In some societies, those are limited and cannot be shown on TV. There's another thing where a negative advertising shows one advertiser highlighting how their product is so much better than reality. So political advertising is bad about saying, oh, we're so good because they are so bad. But you see in this example how the Burger King advertisement shows the big burger, but the actual burger is so much smaller and smushed up. In the United States, direct marketing is very controversial, especially when the approaches are unsolicited. Telephone unsolicited calls trying to sell things on the telephone are very annoying. Junk mail in the U.S. mail, you can look at it and throw it away, but the phone calls are annoying. The common examples include TV and telephone commercials and direct mail, electronic spam to your email, and telemarketing push the limits of ethical standards, and the United States is continually passing new laws trying to stop this. Examples of ways for delivering a marketing message under the guise of independent reviews and endorsements, or creating supposedly independent watchdog or review organizations. Fake reviews can be published on Amazon. Shills, which are friends of the seller, are primarily for message delivery, but they can also be used to drive up prices in auctions, such as auctions for products on eBay. Deceptive marketing policies and ethics. You see a card game on the left, you see a rabbit being pulled out of the hat by the magician on the right. These are both very common gimmicks and tricks in the United States. Deceptive marketing policies are not contained in a specific limit or to one target market, and it sometimes can go unseen by the public. If you see here in the corner, I have a big magnifying glass that says, read the fine print. In the United States, it is common practice that you have a contract. Most of the contract is written in a 12 font, but when you get down to some of the parts on the 3rd or 4th page, they are in a number 1 font. You really can't see them very well. And that's where the things are that will exact you to doing something that you might not want to do. Most people are in a hurry. They do not read the whole contract, and they definitely do not read the fine print. They sign it, and then they are trapped. There are numerous methods of deceptive marketing. It can be presented to consumers in various formats. One of these is accomplished via the use of humor. See the man rolling in the floor laughing out loud. Humor offers an escape or relief from various types of human constraints, and some advertisers may take advantage of this by applying deceptive advertising methods for a product that can potentially harm or alleviate the constraints by using humor. Danger, and then we see the zing over do no harm. Anti-competitive practices. You see the two flags on the left, which customarily go with a car race, an automobile race, and on the right you see two people running. Planned obsolescence is very common in computers and cell phones. It is a method of designing a product so that it has a limited useful life. It will become non-functional, out of style, or out of fashion after a certain period of time, and therefore forces the consumer to purchase the product again. A pyramid scheme is also an anti-competitive process. It is a non-sustainable business model that promises the participants payments or services mainly for enrolling other people into the plan. It does not supply any real investment or sell products or services to the public. Pricing ethics. We'll talk about this in your marketing class later. There are various forms of unethical business practices related to pricing products and services. Bid rigging is a type of fraud in which a commercial contract is promised to one party. However, for the sake of appearances, other parties are present to bid on them. Predatory pricing is the practice of sale of a product or service at a low price, intending to throw competitors out of the market or to create barriers to entry. The United States has laws against this. Generally speaking, on important products, it is called dumping. That is when, for example, the Chinese government will give money to a Chinese company to make up for what they lose when they sell certain products very cheaply in the United States. If that is the case, the United States has anti-dumping laws, and they will impose extra tariffs and fines on that company. Keeping customers on top. Employees, customers, shareholders, and suppliers of a firm are the key organizational stakeholders. There are obligations to these groups that are often considered to be affected by organizational self-interest. Customers help in holistically establishing the organizational reputation and identity. For example, Procter & Gamble is an ideal market-driven global powerhouse that has billion-dollar brands such as Oil of Olay skin creams, Tide laundry detergents, Crest toothpaste and products, and Folgers coffee, all of which are worldwide brands. It is important to realize that understanding the needs and offering high-quality products are the major attributes for a company's success. Today, the contribution of customers in developing ethical programs and social responsibility standards is not quite clear. In one study, the ethical environment of a firm was found to be positively associated with customer loyalty. However, there are many variants of what is customer loyalty. In competitive markets, market orientation and customer focus are the key drivers of organizational performance. Still, intense competition may also create unethical behaviors. For example, it is well documented how Pizza Hut and Papa John's attacked each other in advertising campaigns. declaring that each provided the freshest ingredients. The matter went to a court of law in the United States and was resolved by litigation. Ethical customer-stakeholder relationships. Performance cannot just be a matter of the firm's own discretion. There is not just an ethical requirement, but it has also been legally enforced in many states. Good faith and fair dealing may enforce a contract or a transaction according to the parties' expectations. Therefore, ethically questionable practices can be treated with civil litigation in the United States as party against party. Ethically inappropriate judgments have a base for legal prosecution. Walmart is sued roughly 12 times per day. They are the most sued public organization in the United States. The lawsuits stem from Walmart's customer interactions and the customer's perceptions about the organization, whether they are treated fairly, whether they are told something that is not true. In the United States, there are groups that try to help the public, consumer protection, and legal aspects. At the federal, national government level, the Federal Trade Commission makes sure that consumer laws are enforced. There is, within the FTC, a Bureau of Consumer Protection that protects consumers from unfair, deceptive, and fraudulent business practices. U.S. government agencies are set up by law and are ruled by the regulations that are set up, and they are there to protect the American consumer. They manage recalls of harmful products. At the state level, there are consumer protection laws and practice laws. Consumer protection issues include product liability, that refers to a business's legal responsibility for the product to perform as advertised. False or misleading communications can destroy the stakeholders' trust in an organization and may be considered fraudulent for legal terms. Ethical advertising is increasingly becoming a key issue in organizational communications. Exaggerated claims and concealed facts may be a part of the communications. And these range from being just unethical to also being illegal, again in the United States. There was a law passed in 2002 called Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and they set up laws about ethical leadership. There are significant penalties for violations. Boards of directors need to prove oversight for all types of auditing in a company. They need to make sure that everything is ethical and legal in compliance. Even at the hospital where I work, we have a compliance department and we have a legal department. They are responsible for being sure that things are done in a fair, equitable, and honest way. It is found by research that consumers may identify with organizations and may see the overlap between a firm's attributes and their own attributes. This concept is important because consumers may seek images that are in harmony with their own self-identity. Organizational misidentification may take place if individuals perceive a conflict between their own attributes and the attributes of the organization. For example, Enron, WorldCom, Parmalat, and Health South, as we've talked about in previous videos, were involved in unethical practices and assumed misidentification from his customers. So what does it all mean? There are a lot of questions here about what is ethics and what about it. I thank you. I will see you in Hanoi between June 30th and July 2nd. I will see you in Ho Chi Minh City, July 4th through 7th. I look forward to seeing you then. Email me if you have any concerns or questions about the video, the material in your readings, or any of your assignments. I will say that we are at the point now where there are some problems with a lot of the assignments coming in. The assignments for the first two items are late They're at the point now where they're automatically deducted 10 points extra from the total. Soon they will move to 15 points extra from the total. This is a very unfortunate situation. Someone could turn in very good work and actually receive a much lower grade just because they are late turning it in. I encourage you to turn your work in as soon as possible. If you have any questions about any of these items, please contact me. Thank you. This is me in Delot riding the elephant. This is me in Rapid City, South Dakota, wearing a minion head running around the Walmart. This is me and my wife in my little car, a 1977 MG Midget, riding down the road in my town, Charleston. And this is me and my wife at a monument in Wyoming. Thank you, and I will see you in Vietnam in just a few weeks.